Hi everybody, I'm Nat Sakimura, the chairman of the OpenID Foundation. This Monday, I had the privilege of giving a keynote speech at 2025 Verifiable Credentials Workshop in Japan, which was held at Keio University. It is full of audience and very interesting discussions were conducted there. Unfortunately, it is not recorded, so I did the rerun of the keynote speech that I have done, and I'm giving it here. So hopefully you can enjoy it. Good morning, everyone. It's a genuine pleasure to be here at the 2025 Verifiable Credential Workshop in Japan. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to our co-hosts, WCAP in Japan and ETDA in Thailand, and to the W3C for bringing us all together. Our goal today is to discuss the latest developments, emerging challenges, and global adoption trends of verifiable credentials. And I believe that 2025 marks a pivotal moment, the year of the wallet, where the entire identity landscape is undergoing a tectonic shift. The identity landscape in 2025 stands at a turning point where multiple axes, human versus non-human, centralized, decentralized, and state, corporate, and civic, are being reconfigured simultaneously. The democratization of generative AI has enabled non-human entities such as AI agents, bots, and cloud workloads to participate as actors in decision-making and transactions. This raises urgent institutional and technical questions. Who proves what? How is least privilege assigned? And how should trust and accountability be designed? Meanwhile, the era of digital wallets has entered full swing. The EU is adopting implementations regulations for the EUDI wallets, while Japan and the US are progressing deployment with MDL and mDoc and smartphone-based mine number cards in Japan. Age assurance is undergoing a major shift towards robust age verification under the UK's Online Safety Act and the EU's DSA guidelines, with ISO IEC 27566 Part 1 emerging as a global standard anchor. This talk decodes these 2025 inflection points across the layers of technology, institutions, implementation, and societal impact, and proposes paths forward. The rise of non-human identity. With the spread of generative AI and agent technologies, the assumption that identity pertains only to humans has collapsed. Software and machines now require their own identities. Each runtime instance needs its own ID, leading to a future where we must manage identities numbering hundreds of times greater than humans themselves. In the world of cloud and microservices, frameworks such as Spiffy, Whimsy assign short-lived cryptographic IDs, called SVIDs, to workloads through attestation based on image hashes and environment attributes. Identity is not assumed, but earned, making a zero-trust design principle rooted in execution environment rather than human verification, such as KYC. AI agent presents several unique challenges. Responsibility boundaries in delegated decision-making, prevention of privilege escalations across chains of authority, interoperability of proof and presentation across agents and services, Solo.io has proposed applying SPIFFE to manage agent identities. Through key protection, short-lived credentials, and workload attestation, this approach offers practical feasibility. This falls outside the human-centered scope of NIST SP 800-63 version 4, which focuses on identity proofing, authentication, and federation for users, individuals. Thus, standards for non-human entities remain an open area. Bridging non-human identity systems, for example, SPIFFE, supply chain attestations, with existing identity federation frameworks will require new implementation guidelines. However, SPIFFE tends to assign identical identifiers to microservices performing the same role. For AI agents, whose behavior is non-deterministic, unique identifiers may need to be assigned per context. This raises the serious exploding client problem, unsolvable by current dynamic registration mechanisms. Alongside MCP, the A2A, agent-to-agent protocol, particularly its payment extension, AP2, has recently drawn attention. A2A built upon existing web security standards such as OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect, extending them with verifiable credentials for confidential or decentralized tasks. The key innovation is the concept of mandates, cryptographically signed digital contracts that defines against authority and user intent. There are three types of mandate in AP2. Intent mandate records user intent and constraints. For example, find running shoes under $100, and the signer is the user. This is used for scenario where agent is delegated tasks, human not present. Card mandate captures final purchase approval and details such as items, prices, and quantities. Signer is user and merchant, and is used for real-time or final purchase approval. Payment mandates signals transaction to payment networks, identifying agent participation. Signer is user and happens at every payment execution. These mandates, whether it's an intent mandate for pre-authorization, a card mandate for final purchase approval, or a payment mandate, network notification, are all expressible as W3C verifiable credentials. Verifiable credentials thus become the definitive technical tool for ensuring that an agent's actions are backed by the user's clear instruction, authenticity, and delegated power, authorization. They provide the essential auditable evidence for attributing responsibility back to human principle. This is the future of governance for AI-driven commerce. Most national standards, such as NIST SP 800-63-4, focus exclusively on human identities. However, ISO IEC 29115, Entity Authentication Assurance, which underpins EIDAS 1.0, introduced the concept of non-person entities, NPEs, back in 2011. Although it primarily envisioned IoT devices rather than AI agents, the revision process is ongoing and struggling. Contributors to this update have a chance to shape a foundational standard for the agentic AI era. It could even earn standard development awards from the Information Processing Society of Japan if you are a member of the Japanese national body. In the NPE domain, digital wallets, alongside AI agents, are attracting focus. By 2026, each EU member state must distribute certified wallets. However, ETSI has stated certification criteria may not be ready in time, prompting major states like Germany, France, and Italy to develop their own schemas. Nordic countries plan a joint approach, but are still in the early stages. High-level requirements appear in Chapter 7 of the EUDI referencing CIR 2024-2981. Key management components must comply with EU Common Criteria standards, such as EAL4+, AVA, VAN.5. Currently, only high-end Samsung and Google Pixel devices meet these levels. That's about 10% of market. iPhone 11 and the later models are undergoing FIPS Form 40-2 Level 3 certification, which may extend the coverage to 20%, but still a minority. Thus, achieving assurance level high often requires external hardware, such as smart cards, USB dongles, or cloud HSMs, hurting usability. A hybrid approach is emerging. Smartphone-only security for lower-level use cases, such as age verification, and strong assurance for critical tasks. Gartner emphasizes strengthening machine IAM as an independent discipline, focusing on secret management, ephemeral credentials, environmental attestation, and least privilege. Legally, the challenge lies in defining how agent actions, presentations, consents, signatures map to human responsibility. Global expansion of digital wallets. Like I said previously, 2025 marks the year of the wallet. The European Union is leading the way with the implementation of the EUDI Wallet Act, which will require membership states to provide digital wallets to their citizens by 2026. These wallets will enable selective disclosure, allowing users to share only the necessary information without compromising their privacy. This shift towards wallet-based digital identity management will bring about increased security, privacy, and cross-border interoperability, transforming how we interact with digital services and applications. W3C Verifiable Credential Data Model 2.0 became a W3C recommendation in 2025 May, establishing a web-native standard for verifiable information with privacy-enhancing and Jose features. OpenID for VP 1.0 formalized interoperable presentation flows. OpenID for VCI 1.0 standardized issuance APIs, bridging EUDI, mDoc, and VC ecosystems. Hybrid interoperability between DID VC and MDL mDoc model is now practical reality. ISO IEC 18013-5 2021 defines the MDL device reader interface. ANVA released implementation guidelines version 1.5 in May 2025. TSA expanded MDL acceptance under CAT2 after Real ID enforcement. U.S. states, California, Arizona, and so on, continue pilots via EUDI Wallet or integration into Apple Google wallets. Japan launched iPhone-based My Number card on June 24, 2025, with face-to-face verification apps following in August. While pseudonymous identifiers were easy under OpenID Connect, wallet-based credential issuance complicates matters. Even zero-knowledge proofs can leak issuer-related metadata, for example, resident states. Hence, Europe has revisited the idea of pseudonym providers to mitigate re-identification risk. The UK requires relying parties to connect via certified IDPs, not directly to wallets, simplifying pseudonym management. However, Prime Minister Starmer's September 26, 2025 announcement mandating employer use of the UK Gov wallet for identity checks sparked massive backlash. 1.6 million signatures overnight, 2.7 million by October 3rd. This threatens 52 DIAF accredited providers' business models and remains under scrutiny. The concept of partial anonymity, which is described in ISO IC 29191, allows anonymity towards relying parties, while enabling designated opener, e.g. court, to unmask identities when lawfully authorized, balancing privacy and accountability. Now I'd like to turn my attention to state-led digital ID systems. Under eIDAS 2.0, the EU mandates wallets issuance and cross-border interoperability, specifying registration, certification, and audit in implementation acts. By aligning with OpenID for VC web standards, while maintaining legal enforceability and trust service integration, Europe institutionalized the legal identity wallet. Thus, decentralized presentation and centralized oversight coexist via layered governance. Without a national ID system, the US relies on NIST SP 863-4 and agency guidelines, TSA, procurement, to shape the ecosystem. ANVA and state DMVs form de facto operational standards. Private sector adoption grows in retail age verification and app-based identity checks. Decentralized ID advances through voluntary market-led implementations. Still, regulatory fragmentations among states raises doubts within the financial sector about broad acceptance. Japan has begun smartphone-based My Number card deployment, iPhone first, Android by 2026. Face-to-face verification app and clear device requirements pave the way for adoption. Implementation align with mDoc, aiming for future interoperability and privacy by design. The country is steering towards linking centralized registries with decentralized selective disclosure mechanisms. In Asia, particularly ASEAN, the emphasis is less on privacy and more on economic integration and regulatory efficiency. Fragmentation across 10 diverse legal systems imposes enormous compliance costs, nearing $15 to $20 billion annually. VCs and DIWs are viewed as infrastructure for reducing regulatory friction, especially in trade. By digitizing and standardizing certificates, export licenses, certificates of origin, they can automate verification and cut SME exports costs by up to 40%. In this sense, VC-based credentials serve as a digital lubricant for regional supply chains and trusted electronic commerce. Age assurance. The ISO IC 27566-1 Age Assurance Systems Framework, set for publication in 2025, establishes global principles for verification, estimation, and reference of age. It separates age proof from personal identity, emphasizing privacy minimization and accountability, closely aligned with selective disclosure and wallet-based attribute presentation. UK Online Safety Act. Effective July 25, 2025, the Act mandates robust age verification for all adult content sites and apps. Accepted methods include face estimation, photo ID, and credit card checks overseen by Ofcom. This marks a shift from voluntary UX considerations to enforceable compliance obligations. Concerns persist around privacy intrusion, spurring demands for privacy-preserving implementations. Notably, VPN registrants, for example Proton VPN, spiked 1,600% within hours, reflecting circumvention attempts. Demand for age verification services has surged among users aged 25 to 35, suggesting mitigation from blocked to verified access channels. Additionally, Prime Minister Starmer announced a mandatory digital ID card, BRIT card, for all adults by 2029, tied to right-to-work verification, feeling political backlash and a sharp drop in approval ratings from 53% to 31%. Rumors suggest OpenID Connect may underpin the scheme, though VC-based mechanisms are more likely for face-to-face contexts. Released July 14, 2025, the EU's DSA Youth Protection Blueprint enables proof of being 18 plus without over-disclosure. It aims for EUDI Wallet interoperability, balancing user experience with privacy. Civil society demands stronger oversight against privacy risks and ineffective enforcement. Wallet-based selective disclosure is emerging as the global compromise model for child's protection and privacy. By 2025, US age verification regulation has tightened considerably. Over 23 states mandates verification for adult content and social platforms. Methods include official ID upload, facial recognition, or AI-based age estimation. YouTube now uses AI behavioral analysis to auto-assess age and triggers further verification if needed. These measures respond to growing concerns about youth protection, content moderation, and privacy. Comprehensive, multi-layered verification is becoming legally required for many online services. Social impacts and future outlook. Redefining identity as a social contract. The question, who defines identity, is evolving towards shared responsibility among states, corporations, citizens, and non-human entities. Ultimately, one's identity is co-defined by self and the other. The freedom to become how they want to be or how they want to become is a constitutional right in Japan and should be honored. This multi-actor landscape demands redesigning not just technology, but the broader social contract of rights, responsibilities, and remedies. In it, states provide legal authority, trust infrastructure, and accreditation. Enterprises deliver user experience and market deployment. Citizens exercise self-sovereign consent and selective disclosure. and non-human entities operate as autonomous or delegated agents. As to the technical changes concerned, key ongoing challenges include interoperability between mDoc, MDL, and other types of VC and OID for VC, protection and recovery of on-device keys, offline presentation and tamper residence, trust management across the ecosystems, including rules, revocation policies, standardization gaps for non-human identities. EUDI and AMBER frameworks now define practical trust models, while W3C VC2.0 and OID for VP and VCI ensure web alignment. Non-human ID via SPIFFE Spire is maturing, with agentic signing and consent likely to be key future standardization topics. Here are recommendations beyond 2025. For governments and regulators, enhance transparency in wallet interoperability, accreditation, and audits. Align age assurance implementations with ISO IC 27566-1, ensure privacy and protection through periodic compliance reviews. Enterprises and ID providers prioritize hybrid compatibility across VC 2.0, OpenID for VCI, and OpenID for VP, and MDL, mDoc. Standardized selective disclosure, minimal disclosure, and audit trails, and integrate machine IAM into zero trust architecture. For citizens and civil society, promote understanding of self-determination and minimum disclosure via wallets. Establish mechanisms for public oversight of age verification systems. Institutionalize feedback loops to detect and correct algorithmic bias and overcorrection. For research and standards communities, develop models for AI agent signatures, consent, and accountability. Bridge workload identity frameworks (PIFI) with human identity frameworks like NIST SP 863-4, OpenID Connect, and VC to create unified standards for the agentic era. For academics and researchers, your task is the most profound. Accelerate the work on the social contract. Define the legal and ethical standards for agent consent and delegation. The new identity landscape requires a new legal, philosophical, and ethical foundation. The ground is shaking. The time for debate is over. The time for definitive action, driven by global standards and fueled by interoperable trust, is now. Thank you very much.